Hi, everybody. Welcome to ZealZaddy's first StoryTalk workshop. One thing I love learning from everybody, but every now and then I realize, hey, I have something I might be able to teach other people how to do. So why don't I turn that into a StoryTalk workshop where it's the inverse? I'm not learning with chat, I'm helping chat and helping them find some things that maybe can improve what they're doing. So tonight I'm going to build an overlay stream, and I'm going to show you how I do it. If you've ever seen any of my overlays, I think I make some pretty nice ones for TTRPGs. I'm not going to do motion backgrounds, although maybe I'll do another episode on how to do those because I do them sometimes. You have to be very careful because they add a lot of weight to your stream, but I've done it and they've worked pretty well. But tonight I'm going to build basically one that's very simple but reproducible. I'm going to do it in Photoshop. I'm going to do it at HD size. You can do them bigger. Sometimes nowadays I'm building most of mine in 4K. So this will be a little bit of a light load, I think, mostly because I want to keep the Photoshop work a little bit light while I'm doing that work. You can see my desktop. I don't think I've ever shown my whole desktop. Matter of fact, not only can you see my desktop, I can squeeze down this a little bit and show all three of my desktops because I use all three of them for the stuff I'm doing. So you can see like I have Loopback on one, and I think Discord's on there too, behind there or something. Sorry about that. Yeah, Discord is there. Loopback, which is what I use for my audio. I think I'm going to keep the two side monitors off to the side though to give myself maximum space for the workspace monitor, the work monitor, the one that has all I'll be doing Photoshop and everything in, and they're right in front of me, so I think they fit better. This is just going to be kind of a fun, let's do something fun together, have fun and create, because that's one thing that I love is by trade, I create things. I'm a graphic designer and a publisher. We build books for Cypher SYstem. We did a lot of D&D books. In fact, one year I think we wrote like 875 pages of content, once it was laid out. I also do work, like this is some of my work too, for Paradigm Concepts. This is the Arcanus books. So I do those layouts. And I do layouts for some other companies. So, my big challenge right now is I'm building a book that's about 36 pages. I'm making ADA compliant. I want to start building Americans with Disabilities Act content in, and I do it for companies outside of here, for government contracts and stuff for engineering company that I work with. So let's get started on some stuff. The first thing I'm going to do is this is just going to be a generic fantasy one, but it's just as easy to do. In fact, I think horror is probably the most fun to do. Fantasy is probably the most common. Sci-fi can be very cool because you can do a lot of things you don't get to do with the other ones. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm looking for a background. I already started a few minutes before just to kind of get a feel. So it's interesting. One thing I do when I search is I always turn off AI generated because I do not want AI generated art. I don't want to support it or promote it. So I turn it off. So I'm just looking for something very generic, fantasy-ish. And if you have questions, drop them in chat and I'll answer as I go. I hope some of you find this useful and interesting and you have fun with it. It will be posted onto YouTube after. This would be a cool one if you did like a LARP or something where everybody was standing tall. That could be a lot of fun too. Hold on. All right, so fantasy background. Ugh, boring. I want something that, first you need something that's relatively flat. I'm going to use something relatively flat. I was actually thinking a brick wall or a stone wall, like a castle wall kind of stonework. But maybe something will surprise me and then I'll work with that. Let me see this one a little closer. No. I also want relatively flat contrast, or contrast that's a little more controllable, something to work with. You want me to do horror? All right, I'll do horror. Why not? I'll do horror. Since we're just starting and I haven't done any of it yet, I'll start with horror. Let's go with horror illustration. Chat wins. Horror it is. All right, let's find, and I like more, like this is really enticing, really interesting. This one has a really nice kind of I think it's like an abstracted wall or tree shape. That is a great background. Easy to work with, very limited contrast. Yeah, I'm gonna do that one. I have an account with Dreams Time. I get 25 images a month, I think, something like that. And they roll over, so I have like 75 images I can pull down, so why not work with that? All right, step 1, complete. I do need to make, now you're gonna see my file structure a little bit, which will be funny. Let me make a new folder for this, because I try to stay organized. I'm right now at 156, so 157 dash, what month is this? April. Horror overlays. All right, so the first thing I do is I make sure that my stuff stays relatively organized. And now let's start images. Let's grab that image and let me open that. And actually, I'm going to start a Photoshop document. I'm going to make it 1920 1080, which is HD video size, which is the size you'll see most commonly on Twitch or on YouTube. You're starting to see more 4K, and it works well if you have enough bandwidth. So web, not large. 72 is fine. 1920 1080. I do not want artboards. I don't like working with them with this stuff. All right. So now we've got a page, just a blank. So I'm going to drag on my image and let's build this out. Now, when I'm doing for a specific game, I try and build a lot of the branding around the game content. So this looks like a grungy, like red wall with gray spattering, or maybe it's like an inverse of rust, but I like it. It's abstract. It feels dirty and dangerous. So perfect, easy one to work with. All right, I am going to. It will be an actual overlay when we're done. We'll export out the overlays, and I will supply the file, probably on Blue Sky. I'll put a link, and you'll be able to download the files and use them all you want for whatever you want. So I'm going to open one of the overlays that I worked with recently, which was the Magnus Archives. And the reason I wanted to look at it is I want to show kind of the amount of stuff that goes into building your overlays. So this is actually a PSB file, which is a large Photoshop file. Give me a second. I'm going to make it for 6 players or 5 players in the GM. And I may make a couple variations where there's a set for 5 players or 4 players, because when you go in between those numbers of players, it really does change the dynamic of what you need to do. So for this one, if you look, this is my main screen. Yep, I do animated overlays sometimes. I don't like them for really long streams. If you do them, you have to be careful. They have to loop, and they have to loop perfectly. Because if you don't, it will be an annoying glitch every time it goes to loop, and then it like misses a frame or something. So yeah, you can do them. I did them for my Elixir game, and I did it for did I do it for kids on bikes? I don't remember if I did it for that one, but I've done it a couple times. It is there's definitely a trickiness to doing it, and maybe I'll do a video one for another one. Like, this is just the first of these. I kind of want to do more of these to kind of just show how to do more of your own creation. Like, as a creator, the thing that I love most is creating. So I want to, and playing or running. So between the two, I want to kind of show off. Now, a lot of these graphic elements I stripped out of a PDF, but I did have to rebuild the Magnus Archives logo because I didn't want to use their actual logo. If you look, it's not exactly the same. It's very similar, but it's not the same. But I'm going to zoom in a little bit and show some of the details that made this interesting. Like, I made the edges dirty with like grunginess to the edges, made them feel dark. Oops, didn't mean to do that. So, but these are my overlays. I have my main overlay. I have a 2-player overlay because I was doing initially one-on-one sessions with the players to introduce them to the game. Then I had what I call the maps overlay or the info overlay. This is one where you can show a big display of like something from your VTT or from, like, I use PowerPoint when I'm just showing images, and then all the players are lined up here. And these look empty, but there's actually something there. There's type there with people's names. The host overlay, this is where only I'm on screen when I start the stream. And then the background that I used. I sent out a background to all the players so that all their backgrounds in Zoom would look the same and make it feel very proper, like an organization supplied it. A lot of fun. So what we're going to build here, though, is we're going to build a set of boxes for 6. I'm going to do this area on the left I use for showing stuff to the players. And then this box is for the transcript as it's playing. Like, when we're playing, it does a live transcription for the disabled. And, I like to support that where I can. It took me a long time to figure out how to do that on my own. There are tools that work better in OBS. I use Streamlabs. I think OBS is great. I have no problem with anyone using it. Any overlay for OBS or Streamlabs will work on the others. So let's get back to our... Oh, I didn't mean to close that. Let's get back to here. So the first thing we need is some boxes. So now I know I need 6 boxes for players, 1 off on the side for stuff, and... Yeah. I think speech to text is a game changer. It really did help and benefit just a tremendous number of people. So now I know we have our background. I'm going to use this background for all the different overlays, but that means it's time to build just boxes. I need to know where people are going to sit, where they're going to, what they're going to be like. What I like to do when I build these, the first thing I do is I like to build them at 1920 by 1080, so I know they're the right shape for their video, and then I can scale it down and just do it proportionally so that I know a video will be a perfect fit in here. Or I like to make it a little bit off, so because one thing that happens is people sit in the center of their screen. I have no idea if I'm in my screen. They sit in the center of their screen. Let me see right there. And a lot of the stuff to the outside is irrelevant to the game. So I actually think I'm going to cut the edges on the right and left off a little bit. So now that I have 1, I'm going to make 6 of these, and I'm going to give them some space. Now these are not the windows yet. These are starting to build out what will become windows. I'm basically building a grid that I'll be working with. And you can see as you drag them in Photoshop, it tells you when they're aligned. They snap to what you're doing as a grid. All right, so that's the first 6. I'm going to rename these because it drives me nuts trying to keep up with them all. All right. So now I have my 6 boxes for my players. I will do 2 other windows in a moment, and I'm going to do a little bit of branding stuff on there so you can put your logo or whatever you want to do. I do sometimes create my own logos. Actually, I'm going to bring up another one I did because I think it was really a very cool one for horror. The Old Gods of Appalachia one I did, I loved that overlay. I may release that on Drive-Thru-RPG. It feels so thematic to the game because it feels like an old clapboard house, which was common in the 1910s and 1920s, particularly in Appalachia, and it felt naturally grungy and dirty and dangerous. Like, oh, I love that one. I gotta say, the games that Cypher SYstem puts out, the horror games, it's very easy to emulate the feel, to get that feel for them, because they really give you the feel for them in their books. So that's something that I'd love to see when it happens. You know, it's going to take a second to open this, and I'm probably going to close the TMA one in a second. But I do want you to see what's happening here. I'm not going to put names on here, but I'm going to leave boxes or spaces for you to do names. There's 2 ways to do names. One of them is to do them in Photoshop and export them into your for your use. All right, I'll update the text. The other one is to do the text in OBS, and I do it both ways. So I don't want a 4-player one. Here's the main one. Okay, so this is the one that I had done for Old Gods of Appalachia. You can feel like the paint peeling off the walls. I grunged up the type of their names so they felt dirty and used, and it was good. And then for this one, I even created my own logo for the game to emulate the feel without using the logo. Initially, I would actually use their logo, and they asked me to stop using it. It was the first time it's ever happened. I've used others, and no one's ever said anything. But I ended up, I enjoyed building my own. So I had my own ZealZaddy's Old Gods of Appalachia role-playing game experience logo, which was a lot of fun. Invisible Sun is on my list for this year. That is definitely going to be, I'm definitely going to be running it. I got the Wellspring the other day, so things are coming. So, and crows were going to be really important, but I also wanted the tentacles that related to the cryptids that were in the game. And you can just see the dirtiness in here. This is where I was in this these are windows to an old clapboard house. And each person got one of the windows. And man, it was just a really good, overlay that really brought the feel. All right, let me close this one because it's a biggie and I don't want to have it open. All right, let me get back here. So there's my first 6. I'm going to duplicate this one, and I'm going to bring my new one up here to make my window for, and I'm going to make this one exactly too wide. This one doesn't matter so much because you'll adjust your transcription window to fit. And then the last one I need, I'm going to put this one to the top though, so it's easy to find. And then the last one that I need is going to be the one on the side. Now, there are more probably that would be good. Let me make sure they snap. Come on. Oh, it's not snapping yet. All right, so this one is going to be for stuff. I'm going to leave a little bit on the bottom for a copyright notice or things you may want to put down there. Also, it's the least important of the space, of least important space. Sometimes it's covered by stuff in the overlay or the game. So now what we have here is we've got our main windows for players, the 6 here, for the transcript, and for info. Now I'm going to make one more box here because I am going to need one when I do a separate maps or image screen. So let's take this one, which is already big, and I'm going to go to here. All right. So this one I'll use in a little bit, and then I'll make these smaller, but I'm going to set this one aside for the moment. It's for in a few minutes. We'll get to that. Now, one thing that I do when I build these is I name them. So I'm going to call this one player top left, player middle, because it's just easier to get them when you need them for other things. Player right. Next one. Player bottom left. Oh, player top right, not right. And my OCD does not allow me to have different naming conventions, so I have to fix that dash. All right, so this one's going to be player bottom middle. And trust me, you will appreciate these when you get the PSD file when I'm done. Everything's named for you. Player bottom right. Okay. Then this one is transcription. And this is the info small. Now, I've just realized that I think I need to make that big window shorter because I want to leave the transcription window there. So I'm going to bring this down to here. And we're going to call this one info large. Not going to use it yet, but now we've already got built our groupings of everything. I'm going to group these real quick. Actually, I just want to make sure they're centered. Yeah, they're centered. Okay. Centered vertically, horizontally. All right, so now that's there. I'm going to put these into a folder, except that bottom one. This is going to be main. This is going to be the main group. So these are now in a folder. I can turn them on or off all at once. And these are going to create, I'm going to use these to create a hole through this background. And that way, when you get your screen, you can put your video, your Zoom or your Discord video in layers, in a layer below the overlay. So I'm going to duplicate this. I'm going to call it background. And I'm going to call this main. All right, so I'm going to put it into that window. I have to put it to the bottom of the window though. Scroll, bring it down a bit. All right, now I'm going to make a new folder inside this folder. I will nest these things, which is Windows. All right, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take all of these and I'm going to select them all one at a time. So I'm Command Shift clicking them individually. I'm going to hide them. I'm going to go to this folder and I'm going to create, oh, hold on, turn that one off. And I'm going to create, oh, I need to invert it, sorry. select. I'm going to invert my selection. So now it's selecting everything but the windows. And then I'm going to go to main, and I'm going to click right here to create a transparent hole. You know, it's a hole. So with the white off, you can see the checkerboard showing these are all now transparent windows. So I can put videos of all the players, one in each of these. You may have to do a little cropping of the video inside the overlay, inside the your streaming software, whether you're using OBS or Streamlabs or whatever. But now you have enough for 6 players, a transcription window, and an info window. But it's not quite done. I want to get some grungy edges to these and make them feel a little dirtier. So let's go back out here and get horror frames. See if I get something. I'm going to say grunge frames. By the way, you can use, there's some less expensive ones to get to. Let me turn off the AI. I can see half these were already AI generated, so get rid of that stuff. Oh, I'm in photos. I need illustrations. More. And the reason I want illustrations is I like when they feel more artistic. So I look for that first. And I want grungy edges. Like, and if I don't find any, I'll just Photoshop some in myself. I'll paint the edges, make them dirty, and what have you. In fact, I might do that anyway because these all look awful. Yeah, let's do that. It'll be more fun anyway. All right, so now that I have these, I'm going to select all these windows again. And I'm going to make a new layer that will be above this for the moment. And I'm just going to get some black edge, and let me get a brush that's a little bit dirtier, like a dry brush or something. Let's get charcoal. Now let me zoom in because I want to be able to see what I'm doing. And if I, yeah, like that feels good right there. That feels a little bit dirtier and grungier and makes it feel a little bit more random. Every now and then I have a big piece stick out, and it's cool. It makes it more interesting and fun. By the way, if you have any questions, you can drop them in. I am paying attention. All right, this should take a few minutes for me to add all these edges to everything. The good thing is they'll be easily reusable later if I want to reuse them. In the darker areas, it's a little less important, but though they matter too because you can get the feel for them even in there. In fact, sometimes it may be good to get a big area in that to give it a kind of a cool feel. All right, it's one. Once I have enough, if I want, I can just duplicate parts of it, but I'm going to make them all individual. So I want them all to be, because it's not that hard to do. You can do it pretty quickly and just kind of go in and out a little bit, create some areas of extra dirty, areas of not quite. I'm going to add a little grunge into this too when I get it all done, because it will be one layer, but easy to add. Probably use like a grunge mat. All right, there's the transcription window. All right, our first player window. I do like to start from the edges, the corners most of the time, but not always. All right, let me get some more of these. You know what? I don't think I'm going to share them on Dropbox. I'm going to share them on Drive-Thru, but I'm going to make it a free or pay what you want one. And I don't expect any money for these, but I think it'll be useful and people will enjoy having them and not having to worry about, oh, I did not like that. It came out too hard. All right. That's 2. All right, since this one's already kind of reaching out, I'm going to kind of reach out a little more like they're trying to touch. Makes it nice and dirty. I like it, especially when we're up against these areas that are a little bit lighter and red, lighter red, stuff like that. Actually, I think I have to make it free. I don't think I can make it a pay what you want because the stock art license I don't think will allow me to do that. But I can do it for free where I don't have the risk. second I'll have these edges done, and it'll be nice and dirty and ready to go, and we'll go on to the next part. And I have a brush that creates kind of a rough, painterly painted edge, so it's not a smooth or perfect brush by any means. And I'm purposely kind of going in and out of the space and making it rough and giving it a cool edge. There's something that feels good in horror about it being organically messy rather than just messy. All right, okay. Let's see, did I get them all? I think I got them all now. Yep, they all have dirty edges. Perfect. All right, so now that's set. I have my dirty edges. I'll do one for the other overlays too. Maybe not on stream, I'll do it after. All right, so now that I have that, I know that I have things that I have a transcription window. I don't need to do any art in this. I do maybe want to do art on the edges. If I want to add like a frame or something, I could do that. But I think I'm going to leave these super simple. Do I want to add little frames? Maybe. Let me think about it while I'm doing the rest of this. Okay, next I'm going to put a okay, now this has to stay above the main window, so I'm actually going to call this overlay, main overlay, windows. And the reason is I want this actually to be held in the same window with that. So I'm going to put that in another folder, and this will be the main overlay. And the reason is I want to have them each overlay set in its own folder. It makes it easy to know what you're dealing with and turn them on and off. Like I can turn all of it on or off all at once. So I think that's good. Oh, I need to name this. Okay. Grunge edges to, I'm going to say grunge edges. That's all I need to do. All right. So grunge edges, main overlay. All right, we have our first one where it's ready for some kind of art. Now, I think it would be cool to have, let's get a tree, like a scary tree, and kind of let it kind of grungy edge this. So let me go back to Dreams Time. Do I want tree? Is a tree the right thing? Let me say grunge tree. Let's see what I get. Turn off AI, of course. See, I like that. Not the rest of this so much. And because it's so dark, it's easy to isolate. Ooh, this is kind of cool too. Let me see this. Let me look at this. This might be kind of a cool thing to mix in, because there is something, very nice about the feel of isolation you get with this. And maybe I'll incorporate that in some way, or just grab the birds. You know what? I'm going to leave it off. I'm not going to do it yet. I'm going to keep it simple. I don't want to add so many layers, it becomes complicated. So we have our first overlay set. Now let's do our second, which is going to be our info overlay. So I'm going to duplicate the one I just had. I'm going to call it info overlay. All right. And in here, I got to go do some cleanup work now, because some things aren't going to work. I'm going to turn off the main one, and now in here, I'm going to delete all of these edges. I just deleted all those grungy edges. I'm going to go back in and do them again once I have these windows set. Now I'm going to go into here, into the windows. And then this one, sorry, I am going to take all of these windows and resize everything. So I know that my big window is now going to be in here. So I'm going to pull it in. And I'm going to turn it on because it becomes very important. It's the main one everything else wraps around or has to work with. Before I do that though, I'm going to delete the layer mask. And now I can see my windows again. So now we're looking at a big info space, the transcription window, and now I'm going to put all the players in a stack on the right. So let's get the players again. These windows are, of course, too big at this point. I am going to turn that one off. Actually, I can't turn it off. I need to know where they are, where it is. I'll keep these. Now I'm going to, oh, I don't want the transcription window. Transcription window is going to stay where it is. I'm going to move it to the bottom, get it out of my way. All right. So if I grab those 6, I can scale them down some. I don't want to scale them too much. I'm going to try and get 6 of them in, and I'm going to get them tight. So this is going to get tight, but I am going to get them wide again. You know what? I'm not going to do it like that. Yeah, I am. I'm going to do it like this. So I'm going to get it smaller. I'm doing this for the height at the moment. So I'm going to get rid of all but that window. So the other 6 I'm going to get rid of. I'm going to rebuild them anyway. So now this one becomes my main window. I'm going to widen it out again. And shorten it. Now let's see if we can get 6 in here now. So probably not, but if we'll be able to make some adjustments pretty quickly to get them in. So, and in this one, instead of making a big gap, I'm going to make a small one. So I nudged it 10 pixels, 1 pixel at a time. Duplicate the next set. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So that's 10. Now I'm going to do these 3. Drag them and duplicate them. One, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Now what matters is the space. The gap between them is what matters right now. Now that I have them all selected, I can bring them down. I can make them a little wider. I don't want to make them wider. I think it gets tough to read them. But what I can do is I can bring them closer to make the gap feel very similar. And maybe we'll put their name boxes next to them. All right, that actually looks pretty cool. So now we've got a box for all 6 of the players, GM and the 5 players. We have our info box where something like a map could be shown and maintaining the transcription. I'm going to move the brand, make this the branding area so that on this one, the branding will be on a different side. Put these back in here. All right, so let me select everything. Select inverse. And oops, make sure that that's not showing. Oh no, that's not in the window anymore. Okay, now it is. All right. So those are all in there now. These are now the info overlay windows. So rename a little bit. Basically what you're doing this whole time is just making holes through your art. That's all. Don't know why that's not in there. It should be. Oh no, it shouldn't be. It's not for that one. That is for this one. Okay, so now I've got all of these saved. They don't need to be turned on anymore. And I've got my windows. Now I'm going to go grunge up the edges, make them a little dirty, just like I had done on the first one. But in between these, I'm just going to make them all just black. That'll make it a little bit easier on this one. So they're so tight already that just black between them would be fine. Just, oops, hold on. Select that. Now I can paint between them very quickly. I'll get to, oops, that was too far. I don't want it to reach out like that. I'm going to have to do a little bit of work on the background to grunge it up and make it, disconnected from what it originally was. It needs to have its own feel, but we'll get to that in a little bit. Let me get these windows set, then we'll move on to that. The other windows that would come next would be, if you want to have a host, I'll do a window for a host. And then, do people usually do that? I don't think they do. I'm actually not going to do a host window. But what I am going to do is I'm going to do an intermission and a starting soon window, which those are mostly just type, or if you have a monster or something we want to put, we can do that. Maybe something in the shadows, because there's no windows really. It's just something to look at while they are waiting. That's actually the easiest place to put a video overlay if you wanted a video overlay. All right. Let me know if you need me to stop and explain anything as I go too. I've taught Photoshop, InDesign, Illustrator, what have you, even old freehand at one of the art schools in the area for many years ago. But I know that I can drone a little bit as an instructor when I'm like into something. So I got to be careful that I keep my excitement level as high as my mind is excited, because I love doing this stuff. It's fun anyway. All right, so now we've got info overlay, main overlay, and you see there's an area in the top left or right. We can do the branding. Now I could flop. I could. No, I don't want to flop. I don't like them. All right, so now that we've got those, let's do the starting soon screen. Actually, I'm going to start with the intermission screen. So intermission generally has no windows. It's a timer. So all you need to do is leave space for a timer that's very clear and easy to see. I'm going to turn on the art, and I think now we're going to add something like that other image across it. Maybe one of these, or no, that doesn't feel right. Actually, this feels dirty and awesome. This grunge texture with text. That might be a really cool thing to add. What is this? This looks, can I turn it sideways? That could be cool. I like the roots. I don't like those roots, but I like the roots. Actually, let me do that. Grunge roots. That might tie into something a little more, like a little bit cool in a cooler way. No. Yes. This couldn't be worked with. I don't like the butterflies, but I like the lower half of this. With the stumps and the roots kind of reaching down. That's maybe. I'm going to add it to my light box of stuff I'm looking at for this. Let's see. Ooh, let's look at that. Ooh. Do I like the bottom of this? Yeah, I like the paint drips and the roots. There's some swirly things. I think the problem is that it's too tall. You know what? I'm going to change my filter on this. I don't want portrait orientation. I want landscape or square. Panorama is fine too. So I'm going to apply that, get rid of anything that's built around being tall, vertical. Some of these feel too swirly and unmagical or horrific. It would be cool to get like roots reaching to a coffin. That would be a cool thing. Actually, let me try that. Let me see if I find roots, coffin. I mean, there's Halloween stuff. You never know what you're going to find. Oh, that's nice. No, not for this. Not seeing anything with roots to a coffin. We'll find something in a minute. Or I'll work with one of the ones that I already have. Let's see. Ooh. That's an interesting look. I'm going to save it to Lightbox. I don't think it fits, but it is an interesting image idea. And you often get a lot of stuff that is not particularly usable or useful for what you're doing, but you just have to sort through it and you'll find, look at the roots. I like that set of roots. Let's find, hold on. Nope. That looked AI. So let's get rid of the AI. Grunge roots. And if I got vector art, it would be even easier because then I would be able to just use the vectors. I'd open them in Illustrator and copy and paste them into Photoshop, and I would not have to deal with getting rid of color or anything like that. Why don't we actually do that? See if we can just get a vector as opposed to a PNG or a JPEG image, because I'd rather make it easier and more useful. I don't like those. But roots tend to make some pretty cool stuff. Ooh, those are nice. Isolated on white, so I'd have to mask them. This is really nice. Okay, I can work with this. Let me get the EPS of this. I think there's something cool to that. It adds a little bit of earthy grunginess to it. So let's get that image and bring it in. Since it's an EPS, I'm gonna put it into. I'm gonna open an Illustrator. But before I go on, let me save this. Let me get the name of my file. my folder, because that's what I name my, I'm going to name this work. Give it a V1 because this is the first version. And I'll put it in horror overlays. By the time we're done, this file will be pretty big. I do have a full doc. I have a lot of work going on. Yeah, but I love doing stuff, so I don't mind it. All right, so I got that image. Let's open that in Illustrator. Yeah, I have a lot of apps. One of these days I'm going to sort them a little better, but no, I always say I'm going to sort them a little better, and I never do. So sure, I'm going to sort them one day. I know where everything is that I need. I did not want to open. I wonder if there's a... there you go. All right, so this is a cool image that I think I'm going to use on just the intermission and the screens where we're waiting. And I'm going to use this as a way to create like a differentiation from the other one. So this one nicely, I can just copy all of that as a black graphic. So I don't have to worry about isolating anything or masking anything. Let me back out. And I'm going to do it as smart art instead of pixels, so that if I want to edit later, I have more editing capabilities. Which part do I like the most? I'm going to zoom a little further in. And I like this left side the most. I didn't actually love the right side. So, all right, we got something pretty cool going on there. So now we maintain a connection to what was there before. Let's do some type. Let's say intermission. I'm going to leave this. I'm going to make it type first, but then I'm going to leave it big. Let me see if I have like a fracture font. So believe it or not, I use a lot of those apps all the time, but it's true. I should do that. I just happen to know where they are, and I can kind of like go right to them. I think that I'm going to use like a fracture font. So let me, oh, there you go. Oh, perfect. What's this one? Bright Kopf Fracture. All right, so Bright Kopf Fracture. I'm going to make it really big. I'm going to make it white for the moment, but I'm not going to leave it white. Ooh, that is hard to read. I cannot do it all caps. Yeah, there you go. That feels horror-y. Okay. All right, maybe I am going to leave it. You know what? Not white. Let's go with a gray. Let's not let it be so bright and happy. Let's darken it. I like it that the gray is in the reds. Maybe you want people to see it. Oh, they'll see that. It has a earthy dirtiness. Yeah, everyone works their own ways. And I actually work on PCs and Macs. Like I love doing everything on Mac, but for some of my work, I work on PCs, and that's like a whole nother ball game altogether. And nothing works as well on the PC except Office stuff. All right, so now we have intermission. It's very easy. I'm going to put a little higher so that you can then put the text in OBS or something for your countdown underneath there. I wonder if I should do that. Okay, so now we have intermission. That was the easiest overlay we could get, of course. So intermission, done. Let's do the opening. The starting soon, that is. Which is basically the same thing, just with different text. So this one we're going to go. Oh. need to duplicate that layer. I'm going to put it in here. Text above it. All right, now we can do starting soon. All right, starting soon. You can put your text there for your countdown, and then the final of these easy ones is going to be stream is ended, because you do want to leave them a moment to catch their breath after your awesome stream. So we'll call this one stream and stream over. In the old days, I used to put, and I'm going to do it here. I think it fits. Fin. That's it. Which is what they used to do in the old movies, like the old horror movies, like the Wolfman movies and Frankenstein. The end of those movies in those days, they would just say fin, like finito or finished. Thought, oh, that's cool. So we're going to leave it very simple. Now you have what you need for it to, let's walk through what we got. We have, I'm going to put the main on top rather than the other one, because I'm a little too OCD to not do that. So we have our main window. There's a place for some branding. There's a place for, say, a copyright notice or whatever you're going to do with it down on the bottom. We're going to do some nameplates too, by the way. I'm just not there yet. Info and overlay, so you can have like a VTT window, keep your transcription, move your players to the side. Now these are really wide windows. For video, it may be a little tricky to get zoomed in enough, so I may actually make those a little smaller. I'll think about that for a minute, and I probably am going to do that. Stream over, this should be on the bottom. I don't like it there. Okay, starting soon. Easy place for your countdown. Oh, intermission. The text is not above it. Get that fixed. Intermission window. Stream over window. All right, let's go back to that info window. I think I'm going to adjust the width of these. So I think I'm going to do all of these from scratch. I want to make sure that we get everything to stay connected and easy to work with when you get the files. So I'm going to squeeze them down a little bit. You hold shift down in Photoshop to constrain their proportions. Even that may be a little wide. Let me go a little bit more. There you go. So now that's the new size of those windows. So I'm going to have to come back up here. If I hit option click, I can see the windows that I made, in their current form, and I'm going to actually wipe out all the black here. So I'm going to just select the area around them, and while I'm in the mask, I'm just going to fill it with white. Yep. Then I'm going to go back down here. I'm going to reselect all these. Don't worry about the art around them. I'll just squeeze those down in a minute. Okay. Now I'm going to go back up here. And I'm going to fill them with black in the mask. You'll have new holes in the windows, but now our art isn't lined up. That's easy to fix. We're going to grab all of that art, that grunginess, our grunge edges. I'm going to come up here and I'm going to zoom in enough to make sure that I'm getting it all. Because they really do just sort of fit the windows, I'm going to select them. And while dragging, hold shift and just bring them right up to the edge. Done. Let me zoom in a little bit, see if they're lined up well. Yep. Perfect. Okay. So now they're a little bit smaller. The windows aren't quite so wide, so they'll be a little bit easier to work with when you have your Discord windows, what have you. Now what this is doing though is creating this big gap, and I'm torn. Like, I like that the transcription window didn't move. I liked that the grid was maintained. I think I'm going to leave this, and maybe it'd be another area for branding if we want to put the name or something of it. All right, so you know what? I want to see if that font I was using was from like the font or something that where. Like fracture. So this font, Bright Kopf Fracture. I want to see if it's a free font so that I can then make an easy link to it so you could just use that actual font. God, what was it called? Bright Kopf. Oh, Breitbart. Ugh. Fracture font. 1001 fonts. Yeah, this is a nice. It looks like it is. Let me look at the font. 1001 fonts, my fonts. Do they charge for it here? Oh yeah, they do. Before I release this, I'm going to change it to a similar free font, but I'm not going to make the change here now. So now I know that I need to change it so it'll be usable by anyone who wants to use it. That font, I don't want to leave them stuck with a $40 font. Okay. Let's now move on to put. Oh. Okay, main is working. Okay, so main looks good. Info looks good. The three static ones are good. All right, so we have all of that built. Now let's do nameplates. So I'm going to go to Dreams Time, and I'm going to look for something like an index card nameplate. No, not those. We just put nameplate and see what we get. Maybe we'll find something interesting pretty quickly. Ew, those are awful. First, I don't like, this is where I don't like vectors. They look terrible for this stuff generally, unless they're made to look dirtier. It'd be better to get like a one from an illustration or a photo that looks dirty. Let me put grungy nameplate or grunge nameplate. See what we get. Turn off that. This has some promise. So this, I could cut out all that stuff on the outsides and give it a rough edge, keep the screws and tighten it down a little bit. Tighten it down some. You might have a pretty interesting little bottom plate for each one. That might be, I'm going to save this one as a possible. I don't like the color, but I'd recolor it. It's not a big deal to do. I do like the screws in it, though. I want to make sure that there's no... Okay, good. No AI, thank you. Those are not useful, not functional. If we wanted to make a fancy thing, there's some fancy things. Oh, look at that. This may be what we need right here is useful, functional. Their EPSs, yeah, let's go with those. I can work with that. All right, that's there now. Let's Illustrator it. We can close this now. We don't need it. So I'll do that in a second. That out of the way. Let's go see what we got. Now these things can sometimes be not made well, to put it mildly. Wow. So they put a fake transparency grid so it looks like something. Oh no, they didn't. Let's see if there's layers. Probably not. No, there never are. Okay. Let's ungroup. I don't like to ungroup all too quickly because I don't know what I'm dealing with yet. Okay, so now I can hide. Command 3 hides it. So I can just select the one plate that I want to deal with. Nope. So let me do it this way. I'm going to get, instead of the selection tool, I'm going to get the direct select tool and use that to select just the one plate. I'm going to put it up. I'm going to make a new Illustrator file from it. Okay. Because I don't want to deal with all those other pieces. So now let's do it this way. I'm going to copy it in because it's got a mask that's important to it. It's kind of a pain to select it, I see. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to enlarge it and I'm going to delete the other ones. Sometimes it's easier to deal with inverting than dealing with it the other way. Okay. See that? There was even a little bit there. So let me Command Y to see everything and see if there's any leftovers from that are near it. I don't think there are. Okay, so now we've got a nice grungy plate to put names on. I think they're a little too tall. So I'm going to actually I'm going to see if I can layer this a little bit so that I can make it a little shorter. Call it background, because what I don't want to do is I don't want the screws to get turned into ovals, which is going to be a little tricky because there's a lot of stuff going on here. So I'm going to make a new layer, call it screws. Ooh, there's a lot of stuff going on there. I'm going to try and hide the other stuff. So I'm going to select a big area and go Command 3 to hide it. That'll work. That'll get me in close. Command 3 to hide things. What I'm trying to do is get rid of seeing all the bits from the background plate, trying to make them not available so easily and just get them hidden. Okay, it looks like I can grab this one now and drag it to this new layer. I'm going to unhide everything. Okay, now let's see if I put that Command Y, zoom in a little bit, and that screw, yes, is selected and hideable. So I'm going to do the same thing over here. Select all this other stuff, hide it. Command Y to hide, to go into, go out of preview mode. Because I want to see all these vector lines and I want to be able to hide them. I'm just trying to get them away from the screw enough that it becomes an easy kind of a no-brainer to be able to grab it and move it to a new layer, separating it from the rest of the art. So this one now, grabbable, new layer. go down to the other end of this plate. Here's our other one. Ooh, there's a super messy area around it. Hide that. Hide the rest of this. Ooh, this will be the trickiest one, that's for sure. Well, trickiest one so far. There's one more to go. Let's see if they can do us in. And the reason I'm doing this, I want to keep all of the screws on their own layer. This is locked. Nope, it's not locked. Weird. But if I can't select it, I don't think it'll be a problem. So I'm going to try and get this and then unselect the shadow. Nope. I'm going to have to keep getting all these one at a time. This is some of the stuff that is a pain, but if you get good at making selections, you'll be able to get through a lot of problems pretty quickly. All the time in design. Good selecting is half the job, half the battle. All right. These are within the shadow, but they're also visible. Like the shadow is transparent-ish. I mean, it's not fully opaque. So I don't want these grain bits to be moved up to the new layer. So I'm still going to, even though I'm in the shadow and I know these things aren't going to show, are going to show a little bit, I just don't want them out there. If they're inside the piece, I'm okay with it because it'll be underneath and I won't have to see it. I could go in and clean them all out at another point. All right, so I think that I got what I need here. Move it to the new layer. Oops. Last one. All right, let's see if we can get this one a little quicker. I don't want to say that. I was going to say I hate that you have to say the sausage made because it takes a little bit of time, but actually this is kind of good stuff to know and learn about if you want to build your own overlays. I love building my own overlays, and I think that the overlays that I have look fantastic and really fit the theme better than most of the ones I see. To me, they add production value. They make the characters look better, because like I build big windows for the characters because I think they're the most important thing going. So highlight the characters as big and bold as you can. All the other stuff is secondary to that. So it becomes really important to me to do that. Okay. Let's see what we got. Let me unhide everything. Screws turned off. Okay, now I can work on getting these plates. Now, because it's just grunginess, I don't think it will be too difficult to just literally scale it down. Let's see what happens, because it may, yeah. What is that? Okay, there's a shadow. Let me see if I can grab it all. And I think I'm looking at about like that. I think that's big enough. It's not perfect. I could spend a little time making these all even sized, but I don't really want to do that. I think it's okay like this. What I want to do though is I want to now turn on the screws, lock this layer, the layer without the screws. I want to move the screws down into the same positions. Now I think we have our little bar for our nameplate. So I think we got a cool nameplate. Let me unlock that now. I'm going to make this a little bit bigger. I don't know whether I want to keep the shadow that's on it, because it will cause, maybe not. It'll be okay. All right, so I'm going to make the box, the bounding box, a little smaller. I don't need it so big. All right, let's copy and put this into photo. Let me save this. Hold on. This is the nameplates. They're now saved. I can close that now without saving that. All right, so now we can grab this. Let's bring it on. All right, so I'm going to do this on this one, which is the main one, Smart Art. Now let's see the proportion. So it'll definitely get smaller. And they don't have to sit right over the... See, I like that it leaves a little bit on the edges. Yeah. But it leaves most of the space available to the talent, the cast. All right, so I'm going to start duplicating these. And I like that they overhang the edges. It gives them a little more space without taking away as much space from the talent. Oh my God. Keep dragging it to the wrong item. The plus makes a duplicate, and I kept making folders. I didn't want to make folders. All right. I'm not sure why those ended up down there. That was weird. Oh, because it didn't duplicate it. It just moved it. Okay, so I now have nameplates. There's not room for the nameplates on the other ones, on the info box. So I don't think I'm going to put them there. I'm going to leave these here, though. Now, what to do? This becomes the big question. What to do here? Should I leave it? I think I'm going to leave it as just a simple square. I think the nameplates give enough, although honestly, I still think they're a little too tall. Yeah, let's go back to Illustrator. I don't like how tall they are. They're eating into the space too much. We're going to make them shorter. Doing it live. Okay, so turn off the screw, lock the screws so they can't move. Grab the main art again. Let's make it up. Don't hold shift. If you hold shift, it will maintain proportions. I want to do the opposite. I want to reduce it down. Now, I do think now it's starting to really push in on the edges. So I actually want to see if I can get these edges a little shallower. Whew, that's tight. Yeah. And whatever hell that is not cool. Let me go see what, oh, that was just an artifact from a screen redraw. All right, let's get the screws, bring them down to the right spots. I think I'm going to bring the lower ones a little lower. Not keep them so, far into the piece. Let's get them a little closer to the edges. All right, that's better. I'm going to just live with that because I would spend, honestly, I would actually, doing my own, I would spend 4 hours fixing the proportions of these, but I don't want to do that tonight on stream, so I'm going to leave it. All right, let's copy and paste it again. I'm going to save it before I minimize it, and let's paste. Pasting it above the grunge window edges, because that you would, if it was below them, you would see the grungy edges over the art. So it's important to make sure that you have them in the right order. All right, so the first one's done. I'm going to make it smaller again, kind of like it like that. Get it down to about like that. Okay. 1. Let's do a second one. Got 2 done. I'm going to rename them in a moment because, you know, got to name them. It'd be annoying with a name wrong. All right, so I'm going to call each one of these nameplate. This is going to be nameplate dash top dash left. I'm going to copy that so it makes it quicker to name the others. So let's name this one top middle. Name this one top right. This one, this is bottom left. Let me copy that name, make it quicker. Now this one is middle, bottom middle. This one is bottom right. Okay, so now we've got our nameplates for you to put your character names in, whatever you're going to use them. I'm not going to put them in. I'll leave that up to you to use whatever font you want. I would recommend doing the names. Well, no, I don't want to say that. You can either do the names here in Photoshop and then export them out with them. But what I found is the type is a little not as clean on an HD. It's fine when you're doing 4K because you get better quality. When you scale down, because you're basically you're going to be exporting as a PNG. But with type in the overlay, it is the equivalent of a vector graphic, so it'll be sharper. Now the downside is generally your overlay, your application isn't going to have as cool of fonts. For whatever reason, it does not show all the fonts in your system. It should, but it doesn't. All right, let's see. Now we've got that. What are we going to do about the names for here? So my thought is to put them out here. You know what? Let's go back. I am going to put some names here because I do want to kind of imagine what I would be doing with these. Turn off that one. So I'm going to make a new folder in here called names. And I'm going to use a very simple font. I'm going to say first, last name, /noun, and then an at dot blue sky. You can be able to change those all you want, but I'm going to put this in. What's a good Google font? Roboto? Ugh, not Roboto. Actually, maybe Roboto would be good because it has a good condensed, and you may need condensed. Condensed? Oh, that's hard to say. Yeah, let's look at Roboto. Roboto, medium. Scale it down. We want it to fit, and let's make this just black. You want it to be readable. So what are we looking at now? We're looking at, okay, I don't like the leading, which is the space between the lines. So I'm going to make some adjustments here. Right now, it's set to auto. So right now it's 28 point type. I'm going to make it a little smaller. I'm going to go 24, and then I'm going to make this 22. So that makes it pretty tight, and it closes up that space in between. But I think that will fit better. And now you've got a nameplate. I'm going to duplicate that. This one I'm not going to rename these because it won't matter so much. By the way, I'm not centering these perfectly, but you get the idea. I will probably do all that off camera before I upload the files. I have to do a little bit of cleanup and stuff on the files anyway. Okay, so now you have a set of names. And you know what, maybe not at ZealZaddy. There'll be a lot of them that just end up there like they don't know what to do with it. At, I'm going to call it your handle. Bluesky.com. Handle might be a real one. I'm going to put your handle. Hopefully it's not. Just copy and pasting it to get them the same. All right, so we have those nameplates. I'm going to copy the top one. Take it out of there. And the reason is I'm going to use it for the info window. So I'm going to come into info. Actually, before I do this, I want to make sure that they're all in a folder. Yeah, they are. Okay, good. All right, so we've got one nameplate in here. Turn it back on so we see it. And you can see it's already a bit of a problem, but we're going to fix this. We're going to go to, before we do it, let's go get that gray color we had. So I think that's a great color for this. What is that? Copy it here. Now, I can already see that with the smaller type, that is not bright enough. It'll be too hard for people to read it all. I'm also going to set this one to flush left rather than flush right. But there's now room too. I can spread out a little bit, but this becomes a bit long. So I'm going to make this a little bit less. I'm going to go down to 16 point and see if it fits now. It does. That to me will work fine. All right, so we've got one, but the color is off. I can't use that. I'm going to come up and ease it into, I still don't want it fully white. All right, there you go. Yeah, it's kind of a gooey, fleshy color. All right, now I'm going to put this in a folder called names again. And let's duplicate it because we have to make 6 of these too. And I don't like that they're going to be in inverse order of how people would see them, which is annoying. Okay. All right, so we have our names. It was actually good because now the window's there, and the way we did it allowed us to keep the names fairly large without having to use the plate. The nameplate, you have to make some compromises on these screens. I could do one big plate for each one and make it a little more complicated, but I don't think that it actually adds value to it on these because the windows get smaller and smaller, and you really do want your players to shine and take all the value. There's a space for branding on this one. There's a space for branding on this one. They're on opposite sides, which is a little odd, but I think it's still cool. Starting soon, intermission, stream over. I think we have a full-on set. I think we have everything done. Is there anything you want me to add or any questions you have on this? If not, I think I'm going to finish up this, clean it up a little bit, and get it onto drive-through. And I'm also going to donate it to a copy for people to do charity streams with Just the Human. They have they're getting ready to release some overlays for people to use, and I think this is a good, a good easy one. I have to change the font a little bit, but do you have any questions or anything for me before I finish this up, clean it up, and drop it off for everyone? I'll wait for a second. If not, I'm going to let everyone give them a little bit of their time back for the night. I've had a lot of fun building this. If you know what you're doing, you can build them in a couple hours. Mine are never as easy as that. I rarely do generic like horror or fantasy. I usually try and build them thematically to what I'm running. Like right now, I'm starting to work on one for Triangle Agency, which is something I'll be running soon. Invisible Sun is in the pipeline. So there's some things coming. All right. If you have no more questions, thank you for joining me for StoryTalk Workshop, first one. We will see you in a couple of weeks. Next week we have an actual regular Story Talk. Actually, I have to look which one it is. Give me 1 second. Because I do want to say, because I remember it was something pretty cool, and I wanted to shout it out a little bit. May 12th. No, there's an April 28th one. I just haven't lined up the people yet, but I will. And that one will be on the benefits of going to cons for creators. And then the one after that is the first one-on-one meeting this year with Zach Applewhite, who is a TTRPG marketer. And we're going to talk about all things marketing. We're going to dig into statistics, techniques, how to find your audience, how to understand if you have an audience, because some people don't know if they even have one. So we'll get into that. I'm really excited about that too. I've had him on before. Zach is brilliant. His wife is a terrific author. But I think that is going to cover this for the night. We will see you next week or in 2 weeks. Have a good night, everybody. See you next time.